your rights back. And already, with your help, 2 important battles have been won. Senate President Don Williams, the godfather of gun bans, has announced he's no longer running for re-election. Yes, and that's because of you. And House Minority Leader Larry Cafaro, one of the water boys for the gun banners, has been chased out of the governor's race and is no longer running for re-election because of you. And those are just the first 2. We're going to come after every single one of them. And we're going to do it with good, old-fashioned, bare-knuckle campaign brawling. And we're going to go to every gun owner in the state. We're going to tell them the truth about anti-gun politicians. And we're going to tell the law-abiding gun owners and sportsmen of the Constitution State the truth about these deeply flawed laws. And we're going to march them to the ballot box on Election Day. And we are going to elect the Second Amendment's friends and defeat her enemies. But we need you and every single Connecticut gun owner in the fight. Nobody can sit this one out. Nobody can take your place at the front lines in the battle for freedom.
Let's do it!
Woo! Let's do it! The first thing that I hope you'll volunteer to do is to volunteer to serve. Orange card, right here. I've put a few of these in people's hands already. We did about 45 in a half an hour. I would love it if no one would leave here without filling out one of these. We have 2 NRA booths, one all the way back on the right, one all the way back on the left. This card authorizes the NRA to stay in touch with you and tell you how you can help win this fight. Whether it's putting up a yard sign, canvassing a neighborhood, managing a phone bank, or going out to vote. Volunteers make the difference. And please tell us that we can count on you by filling out one of these today. And while you're here, please take an extra one and a voter registration card, and please give them to your neighbors and your friends in case they need them. Every single vote is going to count in this election. I want to thank you so very, very much for coming here today. I look forward to working with you in the days and months ahead as we stand and fight for freedom. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna Cochran from the NRA. By the way, thanks to the NRA. In the back, we also have a gal that works for the NRA now. You can call her hometown girl that made good. She actually spoke here at our first rally in 2010, and she's Sarah Adler. So we want to acknowledge her presence here today in Connecticut. Sarah, thank you for your support, and thank you for stepping up. At this time, I am asking all the gubernatorial candidates that we've invited here today. There were 4. Mark Loretti couldn't make it, who's the mayor of Shelton. But we have 3 gubernatorial candidates that are here today, and I would like you to stand up and be acknowledged by the crowd, because you are the hopefuls that we hope will get Governor Dannell Malloy out of office. And when they come up here, we want you to all acknowledge them by giving them some thunderous applause. We got Martha Dean, Joe Visconti, and Tom Foley. Martha, where are you? Is that you, Martha? Ladies and gentlemen, if we want to see Governor Malloy gone from office, it's more than likely going to come from one of these 3 here.
We can do
Thank
it!
you very much for coming today. in the state of Connecticut, and you are a pro-Second Amendment candidate, I am inviting all of you to come up here and stand before this crowd and be acknowledged. Please make your way to the front. You are our hopefuls. Come on up, everybody. Come on up. Don't be shy. If you're running for office, you can't be shy.
That's okay. That's okay.
If you are an elected official and you have voted the way of gun owners and supporting our rights, please step down here as well. Down the end we have State Rep Rob Sampson and State Rep Al Aldenofi. Is that it?
I think it made his day. I did not get that on film.
Ladies and gentlemen, these are our hopefuls here. Some of them are here today to stand up and support the Second Amendment. And I want to thank each and every one of them for coming out today. Thank you, guys. Exit stage right. Thank you. Thank you, guys. All right, folks, we only have a couple actual candidates for office that are going to be speaking. And we wanted to focus a little bit this year on some of the stuff at the federal level, too. So one of our candidates here is running for the 2nd District Connecticut Congressional, candidate for 2nd District for U.S. Congress. Please help me welcome Lori Hopkins Kavanaugh.
Thank you. Thank you, CCDL, for your relentless fight to protect us against criminal prosecution and confiscation of our firearms, for standing strong to protect liberties that law-abiding citizens have enjoyed in the state of Connecticut for hundreds of years. I am honored and blessed to share this historic day with all of you today, because this is the day those rattlesnakes will sound their warnings in voices that will be heard loud and clear. Do not tread on me. My name is Lori Hopkins Kavanaugh, and with your help, I am going to defeat Joe Courtney and take his seat. Yes.
Governor Martha
And I will
Dean.
better serve the liberty-loving people in the 64 towns and cities in the 2nd Congressional District. I am committed to restoring, preserving, upholding, and protecting our Second Amendment rights to keep and bear arms.
The Roman crowd, I saw you.
It is comforting to know that we stand here together today in one of the safest places in all of Connecticut, because we stand strong and steadfast among gun-carrying, freedom-loving, law-abiding Americans. In preparing this speech, I considered many options, but since I am known to have a set of brass ovaries, when it comes to the Second Amendment, I am Dianne Feinstein's foe. I am Nancy Pelosi's nemesis. The president's punishment. And Joe Courtney's nightmare. I am a proud member of gun-free zones are the safest places in the country. President Obama, rearm our military bases.
Yeah.
And stop.
Twice now.
And stop the preventable slaughter. It is naive to believe that lawmakers who vote for more anti-gun legislation mean well or have our safety at heart. The progressives in this country who attack our constitutional freedoms and liberties are anything but dim-witted do-gooders living in la-la land. Make no mistake, progressives want to ban guns, and they will relentlessly pursue that goal one law at a time, one executive order at a time, one regulation at a time, until we are disarmed.
That's it.
The writing is on the wall and must be taken seriously because we are running out of time. They will take away choice after choice until there is no choice. No one can protect your rights except you. The Constitution is not supposed to protect us. It is, after all, simply words on a page. We are supposed to protect it. If you are not registered to vote and do not actively engage your friends, neighbors, and relatives to vote this November, you are giving away your rights and with them all of our rights. Self-defense is an inalienable right that God gave us and no government can take away. From one peaceable citizen to the thousands of others here today, I will fight beside you, and as your Congresswoman, I will defend that right. Thank you! Now, to all of the men standing here today, know that you are the brave and the strong. Heroes walk among us. But just for a moment, please allow me to speak directly to the women in this crowd today. As a woman, as a mother, as a protector, I will not relinquish my right to self-defense and to the right to defend my loved ones and my home with a firearm. I stand for abused women who live in fear of an ex-husband or ex-boyfriend. I stand for the isolated woman walking to her car at night in a dark parking lot or returning home to an empty apartment. I stand for vulnerable women who is stalked by a coworker or a customer. I stand for the woman who must protect her family and home against an intruder. I stand for the woman who simply wants to enjoy a quiet early morning jog in the park. Self-defense with a firearm of our choice with the magazine capacity that we choose is our right. The right to equal the battlefield and survive. The right to feel safe knowing that every day we have a fighting chance of not becoming a statistic of rape, murder, kidnapping, or assault. I am Lori Hopkins Kavanaugh, and our crosshairs are set on a seat in Congress occupied by Joe Courtney. Courtney is against reciprocity. He is against recreation use of firearms on federal land. He is against a woman's right to self-defense. Courtney is Nancy Pelosi's pet, Obama's obedient servant, and Feinstein's friend. Courtney is a progressive lawmaker who said last week that in the wake of the Newtown shooting, he cannot support the Respecting States' Right and Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act. Instead, he will work on the shortcomings of current background checks and more regulations to stop those seeking gun and concealed carry permits. Furthermore, Courtney said he would expand the scope of data for convictions of misdemeanors. He is hoping for widespread agreement. The way to show Joe that we do not agree is to vote him out of office in November.
Let's do it!
I mean, they just want to confiscate everything. They want to make everybody a criminal.
I am Lori Hopkins Kavanaugh, the Congresswoman with brass ovaries, and I'm looking out for 2A. Like me on Facebook and visit me at LoriForCongress.com. And I am so thankful for your listening to me today. God bless you all.
I've been informed by our events coordinator, Chris Stovey, that he wants a Malloy Must Go chant. So let's indulge him. Real quick, I'm going to take a moment of executive privilege here and also give a shout out to my neighbor, Brad Charles, who is actually sitting here today, who had surgery 2 days ago and fought with his doctors and told them that he was coming to this rally. Brad, thank you, buddy! Also, real quick, on April 26th, there is going to be a fundraising trap shoot at the, I think it's Brantford. Check our website on the homepage. I will not be there at that fundraising trap shoot because I am getting married on that day.
It's kind of hard. Everybody's moving everywhere.
Things would go well if I went to the trap shoot that day. Okay, up next, we have a speaker, a young lady. She's a college student from the University of Rhode Island. Her name is Sarah De Lacerda. Please, let's help her. Welcome her.
Hello, how is everybody doing today? Awesome. I am Sarah De Lacerda, and I'm here to talk a little bit about the Constitution. Now, our Constitution was the first that gave power to the people by 3 words. We, the people, tell the government what to do. We, the people, are the driver. The government is the car, and we decide where it should go, and by what route, and how fast. See, this was truly remarkable because previously all the world's constitutions have been documents in which the government tells the people what their privileges are. The United States of America's Constitution is a document which we, the people, tell the government what it is allowed to do.
Yep.
We, the people, are free, and we, the people, tell the government to stand down and stop infringing on our God-given constitutional right to keep and bear arms. Unfortunately, we have seen firsthand politicians exploiting people's emotions from horrible and malicious events for their personal political gain. We have seen firsthand the destruction of freedom. We have witnessed the outrageous gun registration lines here in Connecticut. We constantly are bombarded with more and more rules and regulations. The government is taking more and more of our options and more of our freedoms. There is a clear cause and effect that is as predictable as the laws of physics. As government expands, liberty contracts. I am so excited to be here today. It makes me think of that famous speech from Henry V. You know, the one where young Henry bucks up his troops before he leads them into battle? We are a proud band, fighting sisters, fighting the good fight, a fight for the Second Amendment, and a fight for the Constitution. We are fighting the good fight, and I congratulate you all for it. You are the ones here to celebrate and preserve not just our Second Amendment freedom. This fight is about what kind of people we are and what kind of country we want to be. The struggle to protect our Second Amendment right is spotlighted once again. And I'm proud to say we are here to stand up to the political establishment and say you will not infringe on my Second Amendment right, not now, not ever. As an American, this fight is about what kind of people we are. I want to live in a country that is exceptional and is strong, good, decent, and most of all free. You know, so what keeps me so optimistic, keeps me reloading in this fight, keeps us going in this fight and in this country that we love. It's the faces I see here today and the millions that are with us in spirit. We are in a fight with policies which lawmakers admit will not work, and they are considered the good guys, and yet we do not give up. The Washington establishment smears at you, and you don't give up. The mainstream media just doesn't get you, and you don't give up. You don't retreat, because this is a good fight, and I'm proud to be a part of it. I'm so honored to be here with all of you today. I ask you to stand strong, keep the faith, fight for our freedoms. And in the words of Ronald Reagan, always remember that freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. God bless you, God bless Connecticut, and God bless the United States of America.
I gotta keep doing these random shout-outs, I'm sorry. Random shout-out to Deerfield County Fish and Game. They have contributed greatly with you having and hosting fundraisers for the litigation effort. So. All right, it's time right now now we have speakers that are going to be coming up after our keynote. But we wanted to get our keynote in at the mid-peak part of the day here, and he's got a great speech, and he is a tremendous writer, a tremendous blogger, and I'm proud to know him. Please help me welcome from Gun Rights Examiner, David Kodrea.
Am I good here? You know, you start writing a speech and it's never done. I've rewritten it 3 times already this morning, and I just rewrote it again in my mind because I see this gentleman here with the flag, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is the expression of liberty, because look how joyous this man is. That's liberty. I've got a couple of housekeeping items that I need to get out of the way before I begin the official speech. And the first is to let you know that I brought a case, I smuggled a case in of high-capacity magazines. Okay. Unfortunately, I don't have enough to share with everyone, but if you come see me afterwards, I've got a few, and you have to be force multipliers, though, and you have to agree that you'll share them with other people. What I have is I have a copy of Concealed Carry magazine. This has at the very last page my review of a book by my friends Mark Walters and Rob Pincus, Lessons from Unarmed America. Wonderful book. I gave it total thumbs up. That's my policy. I never give bad reviews because it's not my place to rain on anybody's parade. If I don't like it, I just keep my mouth shut about it. This was a great book, and I'm going to be discussing today's rally tomorrow night on the nationally syndicated Armed American Radio program with Mark Walters, and I look forward to giving them a wonderful report about how great this crowd is. And the other magazine that I brought is Guns Magazine, which I'm the field editor. I do their Rights Watch column every month, and this happens to be the one where I have written about what's going on in Connecticut. And again, I wish that I had it. I don't. Everyone here, I don't. I actually promised these as props
She
to
keeps
a young.
moving. It's into the field of camera. It's unbelievable. The more I move, the more she moves in with me.
There's a bit of sad news that I learned, and that was the passing of Otis McDonald, a giant in Second Amendment. This was the man whose lawsuit in the city of Chicago codified once and for all at the Supreme Court level that the Second Amendment, no, it just doesn't apply to the federal government. It applies everywhere. It's the supreme law of the land, and Chicago has to obey it just as everyone else does. I have a personal anecdote about Mr. McDonald. I met him a couple of years ago in Chicago at the Gun Rights Policy Conference that the Second Amendment Foundation puts up. And I told him at the time how honored I was to meet him, and I said, you know what? In my entire life, I've asked 2 people for their autographs. One, I was 10 years old, and it was Clayton Moore. Those of you who aren't old enough won't remember Clayton Moore. Those of you who do, the Lone Ranger. Okay, my boyhood hero. I met the guy, I got his autograph. Had never asked anyone for an autograph since then until I met Mr. McDonald. And we were standing in the middle of a hotel lobby. There was no real desk to write on, so Alan Corwin of Gun Laws actually graciously lent his back as the writing surface desk, and I've got a picture of that, and I've got Mr. McDonald's autograph, and it's something that I will treasure. And it's very, very sad news about his passing. This was a champion, and I think that we all just need to take a second in our hearts to remember the passing of a man who did a lot, and that we owe a lot, that we'll never be able to pay back, but we have to just be able to remember him in our hearts with gratitude. Now, one other thing, I noticed that there are some people walking around bearing arms today, and I also noticed that some people are nervous by that.
Why?
I don't get it.
Why?
Because to me, it doesn't matter whether you're wearing a firearm or a badge or a uniform or without. Okay, it's how the person behaves. So thank you for all who show up and give us the example of bearing arms, because it's more than just people. I'd like to tell you what an honor it is to have been asked to address this gathering today. It truly is humbling. Okay? And it's humbling to be in front of all of you, and in spite of all the insults. I've read in the media some people have called us all some rather insulting names, and that doesn't bother me none. And I'd also ask you, before I get started in earnest, to please bear with me. I am recovering from encounters with my own mortality, so if I have to struggle with my voice, or if I have to take a sip of water, just please bear with me.
Getting in the way of the camera again.
Okay, when Scott Wilson announced my participation a few months back on Facebook, it was pretty funny. He asked people, guess who the guest speaker is going to be? And what he got back was Ted Nugent, Tom Selleck, and people kept making guesses, and finally Scott goes, no, it's David Codrea, and what he got back was, who? Yeah, really. Because it's true. I'm not a name like that. I'm not a rock and roll legend. I'm not a movie or a TV personality. What I am is I'm one of you. And I'm one of you with his voice. And that voice, first and foremost, has been committed to spreading one message. I will not obey orders for Americans to surrender their arms. I will not obey. That's it. My position is personal, and it couldn't be simpler. You bet it's personal, because I'm the one who will pay the price for what I will and what I won't do. The Yankees, they can debate this all they want. To me, it's not debatable. They can pass whatever edicts they like, and I'll oppose them and I'll fight them. Ultimately, my choice is that I'll not obey them. And I'm done backing up and compromising. Okay? It may seem funny asking some guy from Ohio, I heard they were asking who's here from the various states, and I'm here from Ohio, and it may seem funny asking me to come and address a rally in Connecticut. I would like to share, I do have a connection. The part of the state I live in is called the Western Reserve. And that was once a portion of land claimed by the colony of, and later by the, as a matter of fact, this called neighborhood in Hudson is called the Connecticut Colony. And the entire area is rich in history, including in the struggle against human slavery, which is really what those claiming the power to control you and dispose of you is all about. I live just around the corner from John Brown's old tannery farm, and say what you will about the man's tactics and his legacy, it does show that some conditions demand defiance if no other means exist. And that, of course, was the situation that led to the original War of the Rebellion against the king. People would not put up with what they came to view as the intolerable acts. Oh, they did for a while, until the damn fools came for the guns. Note that I did not call it the Revolutionary War, because the true revolution was ideological. The realization that free men don't need rulers, that the function of government is to secure the blessings of liberty, and that we, each of us, have certain unalienable rights endowed by our Creator, rights which cannot be legitimately taken away from us by a tyranny of the majority, as now exists in some areas that identify themselves by that most Orwellian of terms, progressive. And you know, war is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. I have a saying I use on my blog, The War on Guns, Notes from the Resistance, that I've yet to see refuted. With progressives, every day is opposite day. Because what's progressive about telling others who are harming no one what they must and must not do, and what they can and cannot have? What's progressive about creating a whole new class of criminals, and I have that word in quotation marks, for refusing to obey edicts founded in ignorance, prejudice, and the desire to rule others? I wrote an article for Guns Magazine recently, that's the one in this issue here, in the Rights Watch column, and I titled it The Unconstitutional State. It's obviously a play on Connecticut's nickname. It started out referring to a line that you folks here are more than familiar with, the one in front of the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection building, where gun owners came on the last day of 2013 to register their guns and magazines with the DESS parados in order to comply with the perversely named Gun Violence Prevention and Child Safety Act. Making them do that. That was an intentional indignity, and that such legislation would do nothing to advance its stated purpose, and would instead make things less safe for the law-abiding. That did not matter to those imposing their will. That was just another oxymoron that calculating minds right here in Hartford no doubt took additional pleasure in. Progressives, opposite day, remember?
Yep.
The vocal reaction now, this is the thing. Now, we've talked about the gun owners from other states, and you folks experienced the brunt of it. And it actually horrified me, because some of them was unsympathetic. They did not have to face the terrible choice that you do here. And there were accusations. There were people throwing around words like cowardice. And this was coming from internet commentators posting on the screen names, and isn't that telling? And that making such charges they'd never been put to the test themselves, and that seemed lost on the most aggressive, that is the most ignorant, the judgmental among them. And as an aside, I'd like to share something with you. That even though I'm an outsider, I can tell you that I know what it's like to be put to that test. Because I was living in California when they passed a law requiring us to register our assault weapons, okay? And I went to a meeting where the California Department of Justice distributed the registration cards. They told us that we had to fill out, and they used the keyword submit. That is, basically, it was a meeting where they dictated to us the terms of our surrender. Okay, well, I went with two of my friends, they're fellow troublemakers, and in front of hundreds, we tore up the damn card and told them in no uncertain terms that would be the only one they got from us. Now, we did it knowing full well we were putting ourselves out there for scrutiny and more, and I'll never forget this one woman, and I promised my wife, I had this written into the speech, she goes, oh please, in front of all those people, don't call her a cunt chewer, so, okay honey, I won't. Okay. But she calls out, sir, they don't speak for us. And I thought, you know, yeah, I sure don't, lady. Remember, I told you at the beginning, I speak only for me. If you'd like to learn more, about that, if you do a professional face along with the professional face of evil, you'll get the details on that little encounter if you're interested in learning more. But it struck me then, it strikes me now, it's a hell of a choice to force a person to make. But back to some of these finger pointers who don't understand, who haven't been put to the test. If one is to be blamed on anyone outside of the evil citizen disarmament demanders, and what a word that is that the Bloomberg people use, and their useful idiot enablers, many gun owners would do well to look at the direction of 3 of their fingers whenever they point one at others. Because after all, how many of them have filled out Form 4473s or applied for permits to carry their guns? And truthfully, in light of shall not be infringed, those are acts of compromise and surrender. It is. So for them to be pointing the finger at you is absolutely wrong. But now what I'd like to do is I'd like to give you a practical example of something that I call profiles in apathy. I came up with that term years ago after watching worthy project after worthy project fall by the wayside due to lack of gun owner involvement. And I want to tell you why I think it's every bit the enemy that the most committed of gun grabbers are. Where's Lenny Benedetto? Is Lenny around? Okay, yeah, Lenny, founding member of the Connecticut Citizens Defense League, the folks that are responsible for bringing us all here today. They're the state's largest grassroots gun rights group. And as you know, they're leading in the lawsuit along with NRA to challenge the new law. But I don't need to tell anyone here that, because we all know. Anyway, Lenny spent several hours that morning passing out CCDL cards and talking to those standing in line before a police lieutenant ordered him to stop or be arrested for soliciting. And he soon found, this was amazing, that the vast majority of those in line were not members, and many had never even heard of CCDL. Let me ask you something. If CCDL had 10, 20, 100 times the committed membership, might the new laws have been stopped in their tracks? That they were going to push us through no matter what, but if you guys had 100 times the people that were polls, to work the polls, to work the politicians, to fund lawsuits, to do everything that's needed to get the word out, I submit we'd have a different picture. But it's the level of detachment, apathy, and non-involvement, and it's hardly exclusive to Connecticut, because the same story can be told by the leadership of any number of state gun rights groups, where it's always a core of dedicated individuals straining to bear a load that could be shared by many, but somehow it never is.
We got jobs and the liberals don't.
Well, that's true, but you know what? We all have jobs. I submit that everyone who belongs to the NRA has a job as well. And we're the ones out there, but look at it, of the 80 million gun owners, something like 5 million are members of the NRA. Look at how few have joined, how many fewer support much smaller groups like Gun Owners of America and the Second Amendment Foundation, or educational groups like Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership. This has to change, and immediately. Why? Well, what are we here for today? If a lot more gun owners don't get involved, perhaps the bold chat room warriors that I referred to earlier will get the chance to demonstrate to their brain how much Connecticut, how much better they'll perform when it's their turn to show the stuff they're made of. So, what is it that we do? Okay? What is it that we do? First, we join with others, like we're doing right now. Look, if you don't like one group, find one you can support. You don't like lobbying, find a group that educates. And that means support them, including financially. You know, we heard about the lawsuit. Very expensive proposition. And yeah, times are tough. I understand that. Times are tough on all of us. Do what you can, but don't let others who are also strapped do it all. What else? Some of you are going to be better suited to taking people shooting, training the next generation. I don't know, what is it that you find rewarding? What is it that you're enthusiastic doing? Do that. Some of you will find your talents best expressed in writing, and there's plenty of need to get well-written letters to the editor out there to correct the foaming at the mouth bias. But enough of the Hartford Current. Actually not. I told you I continued to rewrite the speech, and so this part here, I've got to bear in and make sure my ant fryers here are focused and get into my handwritten scribbling, the ancient hieroglyphics that I call handwriting, because by not, by calling for arrests and prosecutions, they've removed all pretenses to being about common sense gun safety. Okay, these are the people that Dianne Feinstein calls real reporters, Joe Biden calls legitimate news media. I call them fourth estate, fifth columnists.
That's right.
And I understand that there was a cartoon and a little essay written by Bob Englehart. And he's got a wonderful idea. He says, repeal the Second Amendment, and that's going to solve it all. That's what this guy thinks. You know what? This guy is presuming to teach, and he doesn't even belong in a remedial civics class. I'd like to read you a little something from the Heller decision. It's always been widely understood that the Second Amendment, like the First and Fourth Amendment, codifies a pre-existing right. The very text of the Second Amendment implicitly recognizes the pre-existing, told you, hieroglyphs, of the right, and declares only that it shall not be infringed. And this is the Supreme Court saying, as we said in U.S. versus Cruikshank, this is not a right granted by the Constitution. Neither is it in any manner dependent on that instrument for its existence. This is our right, and this is something that the progressives don't understand. They somehow think that our unalienable rights are somehow privileges bestowed upon us by our masters in government. They think that's the way it's supposed to work. This, of course, is the UN theory of rights as well.
Right.
You can have what privileges we say until we say you can't. Wrong. And in terms of Bob Englehart, anybody see Tropic Thunder?
Yeah.
Okay. Buddy, you went full Englehart. You never go full Englehart. Okay, here's one. Here's another little thing. You can get onto social media, all right? I know a lot of you turn your noses up that and you consider it a silly waste of time. And if all you're doing is inviting people to play Bubble Safari and sharing trivia and stupid videos, it is. But these are also utilities for spreading important information. And I think we've seen this in Ukraine, recently in the Ukraine, we've seen it in Venezuela, the way that people get information out there. Think in terms of our being able to use it, command, control, communications, and intelligence. Because you better believe the other side is using this and mastering it. And if you refuse to, what you're doing is you're ceding an entire area of operation to them without challenge. And what do once they establish and secure a beachhead? They use it to launch their next and deeper assault. Don't give that to them. Make them fight for every inch. Now, some of you will actually enjoy politics. And if you're good at it, that can be a lot of fun. Thing is, we all know there's plenty of politicians who have a huge butt. Okay? As in, I support the Second Amendment but. And then they come up with all kinds of ridiculous cop-outs and betrayals. And so I guess what I'm going to say is don't fall for charlatans. How do you know? You can come up with ways to separate the wheat from the chaff and get them to unequivocally go on the record for where they stand, what laws they consider constitutional, why, and importantly, what they'll work to get rid of, because regardless of what some of them may have told you, it's not enforce existing gun laws, it's repeal the damn thing. Now, true, politicians lie, no duh, but pinning them down with specifics makes that a lot harder to get away with. But then here's the thing. Say you find a good one. We've been introduced to some good ones here today. Will you let such a politician stand alone? Because it would be a lot easier for them to play it safe if you expect them to take the difficult route and actually be leaders, you have to be ready to stand beside them and stand behind them. And this brings up another area just crying for involvement, one that's hardly glamorous or instantly gratifying, but one that's nonetheless critical if your niche is political, and that's getting involved at the precinct level. I'm over here. I will not obey. Getting out the vote and directing party choices. A friend of mine, Dan Schultz, has put together some real good information on this. Right now, he tells me over half the precinct committeeman slots are vacant in both major political parties in this country.
Yep.
And that cries for freedom-minded people to fill up those slots. And again, if you want to learn more about this, if you Google precinct pride, that'll get you to some links where you can learn a lot more. Here's the thing, all this stuff I've just been talking about, it presupposes that we're living in normal times, doesn't it? And things are hardly normal in Connecticut right now. The state is trying to ram intolerable acts down your throats, and it looks like a critical mass of you are telling them you're not going to cooperate, that you refuse to obey, and you will not disarm. And see, that's the first step. Even before fixing on what you will do, like join a group or engage in activism or participate in politics, we have to come to grips in our own minds with what our own conscience will allow us to do and not to do. And the rest of the gun owners, not just in Connecticut, but the truth is the entire country, are watching to see what happens here. And they're going to take their lead from you. From you. That'd be right, you. Because, let me tell you something. By virtue of the fact that you are here today and others aren't, guess what? Like it or not, you are leaders. Did you think that it's just us guys up here with our microphone program, with our names on the program? Remember how I started out this talk? I'm one of you. And remember how I said it's personal for me and I will not obey? I didn't say me, because I can't speak for you, and I can't demand that you make a terrible choice that no one has a right to force on you and maybe pay a terrible price that no one has a right to demand from you. Only you can make that call. So speaking for myself, I can stand here and put this monolith to the state, and I can let them know one simple truth. I will not obey orders for Americans to surrender their arms. I will not obey.
I will not obey!
If you'd like to join me, if you'd like to join me, feel free to say it with me and let them know. I will not obey. Now, where does Governor Malloy hang out on weekends in relation to this place? No matter. I'll say it a bit louder so that he can hear it again. Those of you who want to, feel free. I will not obey. There's another guy now. There's another guy who needs to hear this, and that's the head hatchet man, Mike Lawler. The guy who said you can either surrender the weapon to us, destroy the weapon, or sell it to a federal firearms licensee. And after January 1st, if it hasn't been declared or registered, it's banned, and if you get caught, you're going to be arrested. In other words, or disarm, or he will destroy you. This guy thinks that's his lot in life. Well, you know what, Mr. Lawler, I will not obey. I will not obey. And there's one final guy that I'd like to give an honorable mention to. This is the enforcer from Brantford who wanted to give up a part of his anatomy because he couldn't wait to bang down doors. We'll just call him nutty or maybe lefty. Anyway, I understand he's on leave and maybe in hiding right now, so maybe this one ought to be just a bit louder so he can hear us. I will not obey. I'd like to leave you A quote from one of my heroes, a great American hero, Henry David Thoreau, author of Civil Disobedience. One of my favorite quotes: "I was not designed to be forced. I will breathe after my own fashion. Let us see who is the strongest." God bless you people. I'm awed. Thank you.
Okay.